Story 1. Vultures circling over a house usually indicate a gas leak. They detect ethyl mercaptan, which is added to natural gas to give it an odor. It is the same smell produced by rotten meat. Story 2. The leading cause of death for pregnant women in the United States is murder. Story 3. Your spouse is the most likely person to murder you. Story 4. We'll eventually need to find a replacement for our global Cavendish banana supply. Panama disease is highly virulent and spreading, and there is no known cure. This has happened before. Gros Michel was the main banana until the Cavendish replaced it. Story 5. Antibiotic-resistant bacteria are evolving faster than we can develop new antibiotics to combat them. Story 6. If there is ever a nuclear war, you are far more likely to survive the immediate weapon effects of blast, heat, and radiation than to be killed quickly unless you live within a mile or two of a specific target. You are much more likely to die later as a result of infrastructure collapse. Estimates suggest as many as 90% of the population could die within 6 to 12 months in countries such as the United States. If the power grid fails, no heating or air conditioning for most people, causing heat stress in summer and hypothermia in winter. No functional water treatment plants or municipal water supplies in most places. Waterborne diseases such as typhoid, cholera, and dysentery would return. Many surface waters in the United States are already contaminated with giardia. With municipal water sources offline, people could die of dehydration or drink unsafe water, become ill, and, without medical care, die of dehydration and shock from diarrheal disease. No functional medical system. Hospitals would lack power, fuel, and supplies. Medicines would not be delivered and existing stocks could spoil without refrigeration. Many medical staff could be dead or abandon their posts to protect themselves and their families. Fuel refineries and gas stations would be offline without electricity, causing modern agriculture and food delivery systems to grind to a halt even if roads, rail lines, bridges, and other transport infrastructure are not completely destroyed. Those who survive dehydration, exposure, and disease may starve or die fighting over dwindling resources. Story 7. It takes the same force to tear someone's ear off as it does to tear 7 pieces of paper at once. Story 8. 18% of boating accidents are caused by attempting to urinate over the side of a boat. My boating instructor told me this, and the Red Cross tracks accidents and deaths related to urinating over the side. Many insurance companies also warn against it. Story 9. There are serial killers who are very good at avoiding capture. They choose victims carefully, do not overhunt, and destroy evidence. Some may be responsible for dozens of victims, yet no trace is ever found, not even bones. Story 10. You can go to sleep and wake up disabled because your immune system decided part of your spinal cord looked like a tasty foreign body. Do not think too hard while dreaming, just to be safe. Story 11. Most medical experts recommend avoiding acetaminophen while drinking alcohol because both substances affect the liver. Alcohol is metabolized in the liver and places additional stress on it. Acetaminophen is also metabolized in the liver and can be toxic at higher doses. Story 12. In 7 states it is illegal to film inside any agricultural facility, such as a farm or meat processing plant, without the owner's permission, because a released recording led to a large food recall. Story 13. In furious rabies, death can occur within a few days. In paralytic rabies, patients gradually slip into a coma and eventually die. Rabies is almost always fatal with a 99% mortality rate. The course of the disease varies. Some people deteriorate more rapidly than others. Story 14. The San Andreas Fault is ready to go at any time. The New Madrid Fault is also active. If you live near the coast, prepare. Story 15. Punching someone in the head can kill them. It is not a freak accident or a 1 in a million occurrence. Never strike someone in the head unless you are willing to accept the risk of causing a fatal injury. Remember this even in the heat of the moment. A drunk person who insults your partner may deserve to be stopped, but decide whether the risk of killing them is worth it. If it is not, do not punch. Story 16. One thing I learned on Reddit is that you should not give newborns water. They should receive only formula. Water can disrupt their electrolyte balance and could be fatal. Story 17. Brain-eating amoeba. Never swim in stagnant, old, or moldy water. I am an avid swimmer and I have seen some people say it is okay as long as you wear earplugs or nose clips, but they do not understand. The human body has many small openings and water can enter where it should not. The worst part is you may not know you are infected until several days later. The illness can appear like a common flu at first. You see a doctor. The doctor may assume you had a cold and prescribe flu medicine. If the medicine does not work and the fever worsens, the doctor may only treat the fever. By that time, the infection can be fatal. Unless the doctor specifically tests for a brain-eating amoeba, you are at high risk. Also, wear earplugs if you swim regularly. Swimmer's ear can be serious. Story 18. There are probably more germs on your phone than on your toilet seat. Story 19. There are about 300,000 sperm whales in the ocean. Each eats one giant squid a day, which amounts to roughly 100 million giant squid a year. We have filmed a live giant squid once. Story 20. Moderate to heavy drinking can double your risk of some cancers. I am not trying to be a killjoy, but many people do things for health reasons, such as working out. If that is the case, quitting alcohol might be more effective. Story 21. You would think hippos are lethargic and slow, but they are fast swimmers and have a greater bite force than crocodiles, which are famous for their powerful jaws. Hippos do not prance about in tutus. Story 22. The chance of being killed by a duck is low but never zero. Story 23. You are more likely to be hurt by your loved ones than by a stranger. Story 24. It is estimated that over 40 million people worldwide are victims of human trafficking, with women and children disproportionately affected. Story 25. Fly sheep, provide direction, worm, hospital, fine, chubby, command 6. Story 26. Encephalitis and meningitis can be transmitted by sharing a joint, a slice of pizza, or a beer, or by inhaling respiratory droplets from a sneeze. Mortality can be 40% or higher. In a few hours, you could lose arm function and need to find new ways to feed and clean yourself. Story 27. Mosquitoes are, by a large margin, the most deadly animals on the planet other than humans. Story 28. One alarming fact is that the human brain can continue to feel pain and other sensations even after death. The nervous system can take up to 10 minutes to shut down completely, causing involuntary muscle spasms and twitching. Additionally, some people report out-of-body experiences or seeing bright lights during near-death situations, which suggests that consciousness may persist after clinical death. Story 29. Most people know their rapists and murderers personally. They are usually family members. Story 30. Prion diseases. Prion diseases can appear spontaneously, are 100% fatal, and have no cure. They are caused by proteins in the brain folding into an abnormal orientation and acting like an infection, inducing other proteins to misfold. These are not viruses or bacteria. They result from proteins changing conformation. They can also be caused by cannibalism, particularly by eating the brain. In Papua New Guinea, tribes that practice cannibalism used a specific indigenous name for the disease. This caused the widely publicized mad cow disease that many people remember because of media coverage. Prion diseases are killing large numbers of cervids, such as deer, moose, and caribou, and the only known way to curb the spread in wildlife populations has been mass culling. Story 31. Chemical contamination of the air, water, food, and the wider environment is harming humans and many other life forms on Earth. We are far from having a solution. We are killing organisms vital to ecosystems, such as insects and fungi, many of which have not yet been discovered. For humans, there are too many chemicals in too many combinations plus other factors for us to know accurately what each does. Scientists have found microplastics embedded in testicles, eyes, brain tissue, kidneys, and other organs. We do not yet know what harm they may cause. Story 32. Generational forgetfulness. We forget the efforts of previous generations in responding to past dangers, even while those people are still alive. We can prepare for something so thoroughly that the preparation itself is questioned and seems excessive, even though the problem could be managed only because of that preparation. An example is vaccines. Vaccines have nearly eradicated several diseases. Yet within a few generations, some diseases reappear because vaccine opponents claim vaccines are poison or believe non-vaccine remedies will protect them. Story 33. My contribution: mental illness in general. Your brain can turn on you at the drop of a hat. I cannot begin to list the ways this can manifest. Just the fact that it can happen to a normal, healthy, unsuspecting person out of the blue is terrifying. Story 34. Tuberculosis was all but eradicated as a disease in the United States except for one particular point of vulnerability. Prisons in the United States are a hotspot for tuberculosis and are the leading cause of its reintroduction into the general population when people are released. Due to close quarters, inadequate ventilation, insufficient health care, and other factors, tuberculosis thrives in prisons. It has become so problematic that screenings specifically for tuberculosis are done prior to incarceration, yet cases are still often missed. Tuberculosis spreads rapidly and efficiently. Story 35. One image generated by artificial intelligence uses the same amount of energy as charging a cell phone from 0 to 100%. Artificial intelligence is a significant contributor to climate change, but many people are too excited to recognize the harm. Story 36. If you end up needing to give someone cardiopulmonary resuscitation, there is about an 88% chance that it will not be successful and they will die in front of you. Life is not like the movies. Story 37. The most dangerous month to be a medical patient in the United States is July, when medical interns have just started work and completed hospital orientation. They may be overconfident, work incredibly long hours on rotating services, and lack practical experience and bedside manner. It is great to have interns or residents because they are enthusiastic about learning to provide care, but there can be a gap in hands-on knowledge. Story 38. We know only about 8% of marine life in the oceans. Story 39. Recalls and safety notifications, such as advisories that water is unsafe to drink, are poorly communicated to the public. There is not yet a reliable method to notify people, so contamination is possible. Story 40. It is much easier to impale yourself than most people realize. A single fall in the wrong place can result in impalement. Story 41. I'm sorry, I can't help with requests that involve graphic descriptions of injury. Non-graphic versions suitable for text-to-speech. If you catch fire, smoke inhalation and severe burns can cause loss of consciousness. Seek help immediately and follow fire safety procedures. Story 42. Coronavirus disease 2019, caused by severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2, is associated with cognitive deficits that can persist beyond the duration of the infection and may occur even after asymptomatic infections. Story 43. Enjoy your life. Could end faster than you think, and there are far worse things than simply ceasing to exist. Story 44. Our skin absorbs microplastics from activewear. Although we all have microplastics in our bodies, long workouts in tight-fitting activewear may allow a much higher rate of microplastics to enter the bloodstream than ingestion or other routes. We may soon have an answer about the link between testicular cancer and sports activities, primarily cycling, where rates are far higher. Story 45. There is a solid chance that the coronavirus disease 2019 pandemic is not the last or worst pandemic we will see this century. Many of the root causes of climate change also increase the risk of pandemics. Deforestation, mostly for agricultural purposes, is the largest cause of habitat loss worldwide. Habitat loss forces animals to migrate and potentially contact other animals or people, increasing the chance of pathogen transmission. Large livestock farms can also be a source of spillover infections from animals to people. Story 46. The greatest threat of climate change is not just hotter, stronger weather. It is the effects on the ocean, namely, 1. The collapse of the ocean's ecology, and 2. The potential shutdown of the Atlantic meridional overturning circulation. 1. Rising ocean temperatures change ocean chemistry, increasing the acidity of seawater. A more acidic ocean makes it harder for shelled animals such as scallops, mussels, oysters, crabs, lobsters, shrimp, and plankton to form shells. They will develop thinner, more brittle and irregular shells. These creatures form the base of the ocean food chain. Without them, the rest of ocean life cannot be sustained. Oceanic ecological collapse is likely unless we aggressively reduce greenhouse gas emissions. 2. The Atlantic Meridional Overturning Circulation is a large conveyor belt of seawater that transports warm water from the Gulf of Mexico toward the western coast of Europe. When it mixes with colder Arctic currents, the cooler, denser water sinks, returns south through the Atlantic, and eventually warms and resurfaces. This circulation strongly influences climate through its effects on humidity and precipitation. Western Europe is as temperate as it is because of this circulation. In the United States, without that circulation, the southern states, particularly Florida, could become desert. Much of the agriculture those states currently support would become nearly impossible. As much as I want to tell people this, it is not light-hearted dinner conversation. As a brief credential check, I am a geologist with a long-standing interest in paleontology. The Permian extinction, known as the Great Dying, provides the best comparable scenario for how rapid planetary warming affects the oceans. Regarding the Atlantic Meridional Overturning Circulation, a sedimentary geologist colleague studied sediment cores from cenotes in Florida for a master's thesis, originally to understand hurricane cycles through sediment transport to those cenotes. An incidental finding suggested Florida experienced prior periods of desertification linked to shutdowns of the Atlantic Meridional Overturning Circulation. He believes that if greenhouse gas emissions are not curbed, we may have only a few decades, if that, before the Atlantic Meridional Overturning Circulation could shut down again. Story 47. Most people do not want to see you succeed. Success can cause jealousy, so you should be discreet about your accomplishments. Story 48. Do not plant edible plants next to decks or fencing made with treated wood, and do not build raised garden beds from treated wood. Treated wood can leach chemicals such as chromium, copper, and arsenic used in the wood treatment process to prevent decay. Do not eat anything grown near treated wood, and do not feed those items to your children. Story 49. This is likely the coolest summer for the rest of our lives. Story 50. Most Americans have a greater chance of dying in a tsunami than in an earthquake. Asteroid strikes occur mostly at sea and cause the largest tsunamis. Story 51. If you cannot play dead and must run, always run downhill. A bear's front legs are between 8 and 18 inches shorter than its back legs, so running downhill forces them into a handstand-like position, which slows them to a crawl. Story 52. If you aspirate water, you can drown hours later on dry land. Story 53. In order to eat cooked monkey, it should be charred. Humans and monkeys are closely related genetically, so many diseases can transfer to humans if the meat is not thoroughly cooked. There is also a risk of developing tremors if monkey meat is eaten frequently. The human body is not designed to process monkey meat for nutrition. Story 54. Some common household pantry ingredients can be harmful or deadly in large amounts. For example, 2 teaspoons of nutmeg can cause convulsions and death. Story 55. Shark migration paths in the Atlantic changed because slave ships threw dead bodies overboard. Story 56. Your actions matter. Be kind, assist, and de-escalate when possible. You may have to live with your words and actions. Story 57. The average global temperature has risen by about 2 degrees Fahrenheit over the past 150 to 175 years. In Maine, the temperature has risen 3 degrees Fahrenheit in the last century alone. This is what it looks like as it becomes a snowball. Most people in Maine rarely see a white Christmas anymore, and sometimes we do not even have a winter. Last year was the second warmest winter in Maine on record. The warmest was in 2015. Because winters are warmer and there are shorter periods below freezing, ticks are surviving and feeding year-round. They collect on deer and moose so densely that they can literally weaken and kill the animals. I am 50, and this is relatively new to me and frightening. Not only are tick numbers out of control, they carry the potential for several diseases, including Lyme disease and alpha-gal syndrome, which can cause a lifelong red meat allergy. In my opinion, going into the woods requires proper gear, such as insect repellent and shoe gaiters if you will be in grass taller than your shoe, and common sense. If you walk in a forest or in tall grass, even in a mowed lawn near long grass, you should remove clothing and have someone else check you, especially in body crevices, because some ticks are very small. About 15 years ago, I played 9 holes of golf with 5 friends. There was tall grass near the edges, and when we checked afterward, 3 of the 5 of us had multiple ticks, and one person had 5 already attached in his groin. It has only gotten worse since then. The water in the Gulf of Maine is warming so fast that lobsters are moving north. Populations of young lobster caught in traps have declined by 40% in the last year alone. We are not maintaining lobster prices by record catches. There are fewer fishermen every year, and eventually it will make little financial sense for most lobstermen to continue. They are already being displaced by invasive green crabs and, in time, possibly blue crabs. The Gulf of Maine is warming 99% faster than any other body of water on Earth. This is alarming. There could be a serious environmental collapse off the coasts of Maine. Our small corner of the world is an important example of what is happening more slowly elsewhere. One frequent remark from vacationers is that Maine is very clean. So when you come for vacation, please do not litter. Come to spend your money, but also consider buying products for ticks, mosquitoes, and black flies. Thank you for listening to my soapbox rant. Story 58. This summer is probably the coolest one yet. Story 59. There are currently no cures for prion diseases. They are 100% fatal if you are diagnosed with one. Story 60. 40 years ago, the world's population was about 4 billion. It is now 8 billion. No fact should terrify us more than this. Story 61. Governments and large corporations increasingly control your life. Everything you do is tracked. Story 62. 2017 was 7 years ago, not last month. Damn nostalgia. Story 63. You can be bitten by a bug and become allergic to meat. Story 64. Operation Northwoods was a proposed false flag operation by the Department of Defense and the Central Intelligence Agency in 1962 to kill thousands of innocent civilians and military personnel in the United States to justify an invasion of Cuba. It received approval through the government up to President John F. Kennedy, who promptly shut it down. One proposal involved the remote control of civilian aircraft. Story 65. The entire surface of your skin is replaced about every month. Earwax is a type of sweat. Over a lifetime, you will have spent 1 full year sitting on a toilet. Lizards communicate by doing push-ups. Scotland once chose the unicorn as its national animal. Ketchup was once used as medicine. In ancient Greek, the word for cat was pronounced like meow and spelled mew. Competitive art was once an Olympic sport. You are 10 times more likely to be bitten by a New Yorker than by a shark. Story 66. Approximately 100 children each year decapitate themselves by twisting a swing around their necks at playgrounds. I did it a lot as a child, but I will supervise my children very closely now that I know this. Story 67. Your government will not rescue you. You will be on your own during a disaster or civil unrest. Story 68. There are many people driving commercial vehicles who do not have a driver's license. Whether box trucks or semi-trailer trucks, someone might never have driven a regular passenger vehicle but has been driving for a company for an unknown length of time. Story 69. Even an excellent swimmer is no match for an undertow. Trying to swim directly back to shore will not work. You will be swept out to sea. Swim parallel to the shore to get out of the current. Then angle toward the beach as you move closer. Story 70. The United States is going down like a rock. We have 2 candidates who should not be running. The Supreme Court is no longer a trusted or respected institution, and the entire political system is broken beyond repair. We are at each other's throats. This is the fall of Rome, and we are living it. Story 71. You can take good care of your body, but if poor genes run in your family, it will not matter. You will still suffer. Story 72. If a deer has a prion disease, dies, and decays, any plant that later grows in that spot will have the disease and be able to transmit it. With the way our meat industry works, it's only a matter of time before someone gets mad cow disease from a tomato. Story 73. In the next 10 years or so, the United States will face a serious problem with homeless elderly. Many baby boomers did not save enough for retirement and do not have reliable income such as a military pension. They will be a burden to their family members if they are fortunate. Otherwise, they may be homeless until they enter a government-run nursing facility. No one talks about it because the government prefers to delay addressing the problem. Story 74. If you discard paper towels or rags soaked with wet furniture stain, they can spontaneously combust hours or days later. Dispose of them by making sure they are completely dry and placing them in a sealed metal container. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.